Welcome to AT Insider. My name's Eleanor, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about the Tech Tools for Life Assistive Technology at its Best conference, which happened this week, June 9th and June 10th. Now, a quick preface before I get into the rest of this video. This, like the rest of my videos, is not going to be a super nitpicky, detailed, in-depth review. This video instead is going to be kind of more of a holistic approach, where I give an overview of both day one and day two from my perspective. But don't worry, I will still provide plenty of detailed information about the talks that I went to, the exhibits that I visited, and all that good stuff. So day one starts from 7:30 to 8:30 a.m. with registration. But let me back up. This event was being hosted at the Bristol Event Center, which is a fairly new location and I think was amazing. It was super easy to navigate to the Bristol Event Center, specifically the location where the event was taking place. I used both Google Maps and Apple Maps, and both led me right to the right place. Parking was a breeze, plenty of parking, no issues there. You walk in, you register with your last name, and you're provided with a cool little tote bag and this very helpful booklet. The booklet provides an outline of both day one and day two. And towards the back of the booklet, they provide information about every single speaker and each one of the talks, the 34 of them, that will be occurring over the course of the 2 days. This information was available online prior to the conference, but if you weren't able to look at it, all in the super helpful booklet they gave you. So I walk in bright and early at 7:40 a.m. and I immediately go to get my breakfast because, priorities. The breakfast was great, tons of assorted fruit, pastries, the croissants were weirdly good, and bagels and yogurt. So I grabbed my food and I went into the main ballroom. But for some reason, I thought that 15 minutes was going to be the length of time it took me to eat my breakfast. But I ate it pretty quickly. But the great thing about that was there weren't many people yet in the venue. So what I was able to do was go and start to talk with some of the exhibitors before a large crowd had arrived. So that's my first tip. If you're going to go to this conference, be there when I'll say gates open at 7:30 a.m. You can eat your breakfast, take your time, but then you'll have time with the exhibitors without a large crowd of people around you. So that's day one, got my breakfast, started talking with the exhibitors, and then the CEO of Living Without Limits, Pam Fields, began an introductory talk about the conference as a whole and the keynote speaker of the day. The keynote speaker on day one was Lynn Siegel, the retired executive director of the Hope House Foundation. Her speech was truly moving. She talked in her hour-long speech about how her company and herself, beginning in the 80s, realized that there was a need to allow individuals with disabilities to live independently outside of the context of group homes. She gave a lot of examples of specific people that she had worked with, seeing them thrive independently, living on their own. It was truly a moving speech, and it was a great start to the day. So that was the keynote speaker, and then began the morning sessions, which occurred from 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. Each one of the talks were an hour long. You'll see that pattern starting to emerge. So, like every single one of these breakout sessions, as you'll see, they provided 4 different options for where you could go and what speech you could go see. This first session, I decided to go to the breakout session D, which was talking about the use of wearable technology for people with disabilities. This was, again, a super engaging talk. Then came into the time with the exhibitors from 11:30 to 12:45. Again, you had plenty of time to go see the over 36 different exhibitors that were presenting. So I'll read a couple of the exhibitors that were there during this conference just to give you an idea of the vast breadth of different companies and organizations that were there. They had the Connecticut State Independent Living Council. They had the Tech First Shift, the UCP of Eastern Connecticut, Tobii Dynavox, Talk to Me Technologies, Oak Hill, Plan of CT, Hancock Pharmacies, Grand Care Systems, HomeSite, and Living Without Limits, just to name a few. I'll be posting videos in the upcoming days of some of my, interviews with the exhibits. But this time, even though it's an hour and 15 minutes, goes by very quickly because there are plenty of people to talk to, all presenting super cool different things. So during this same time, lunch began. Lunch was great. I'll throw a quick clip on the screen right now, walking through the lunch line. And from 12 to 11:45 p.m., so again, this is kind of overlapping with the time you could be spending with exhibitors, was the AT Smackdown, an opportunity for anybody in the audience to go up and to share an assistive technology product that they had been using recently that was impactful for them. Then came the beginning of the afternoon sessions from 1 to 2 p.m. Again, there are 4 different options, but I'll talk about the one that I went to. I went to the talk called From Mom to AAC Developer. This was a mother talking about how she had a daughter with very specific needs. She was told by a bunch of different people in her daughter's orbit that no AAC app would be right for her. So she created one. Then came the last session. I specifically went to Breakout Room C, which was talking about the use of 3D printing for assistive technology. So now let me give a little bit of a layout of the Bristol Event Center. So they had the main hall, then they had the ballroom. You go around the side into the, I'll say, Hilton Hotel area, where they had both the Summit Room and the Paragon Room. And they also had a second level right above the main hall, where they had some other different breakout rooms, let's say. They also had a mindfulness room, which I never went into because for some reason I was a little bit intimidated, but it was there if you needed it. And then you had from 3:30 to 5 p.m. more time to talk with the exhibitors. I left at roughly 4, but if you wanted more time to network or talk with people, plenty of time. Day 2, very similarly to day 1, started with a nice breakfast and some time to talk with the exhibitors. At 8:30, then the program director of the Connecticut Tech Act project, Arlene Hugo, took the stage to introduce the second day of the conference and the keynote speakers, Kara and Alice Brohard, a mother-daughter duo. Kara experienced a traumatic brain injury at a very young age in a skiing accident. And she was told by a lot of adults and professionals in her orbit at the time that she would never be able to live independently. But the speech was all about how utilizing Alexa and a few critical applications on an iPad, Kara is now able and has been continuously able to live independently because of assistive technology. It again was an extraordinarily moving speech and really spoke to the ability for assistive technology to change lives. Then came the morning session. I decided to attend a session about how to make Google Docs and Microsoft Word documents accessible. This specific talk was, I think, one of the best that I went to over the 2-day period. They gave very easily implementable, is that a word? They gave easy, straightforward steps on how to make your documents more accessible to people using screen readers. And specifically as someone who has incorrectly been told to utilize screen readers, specifically NVDA and JAWS, I understood a lot of the issues that they were talking about. For example, one tip that they shared was that if you click enter multiple times to separate different paragraphs of texts, a screen reader user will hear new line, new line, new line, new line, new line, new line. But instead, if you use the built-in paragraph separation feature in either Microsoft or Google Docs, a screen reader user won't hear that repetitive text. And they had a lot of different easily implementable, I'm going to say again, little tips and tricks like that. So that was really great. Then came more time with the exhibitors and another AT Smackdown. I forgot to record initially, but they had another wonderful lunch. This one had salmon and grilled chicken, and wow, it was amazing. Then came the second breakout session, and I decided to go to the session called Beyond the Classroom, Tailoring Communication Systems for Adult Life. This was about AAC and the transition between using AAC devices in school and transitioning to allow individuals to continue to use those same tools in the adult world. Then came another hour to meet with exhibitors. And oh my gosh, I once again forgot to include the most important part. They had soft, handmade pretzels and cookies and brownies. And oh my gosh, they were so wonderful and such a nice treat. Then there was the last session. I decided to go to the Living Independently with AT and Supported Housing. A bunch of different people from different organizations in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut came and discussed how they were creating independent but supporting housing options for people with disabilities. Again, another very eye-opening talk. Now, my opinions and my commentary on the conference in general. The talks were just all across the board amazing. Now, again, you're only able to go to 3 different talks each day, even though they provide 4 different options in those 3 time slots. And even though I went to the ones that I thought would be best, I heard a ton of great things about the talks I didn't get to go to. For example, in the morning session of day 2, they had a talk called Switch It Up DIY Assistive Technology, which is low-tech options to help people with disabilities. And they actually had people participating in DIYs. I heard a ton of great things about that. And sadly, I was in a different great talk, so I wasn't able to go and experience that. But I think that example just kind of shows that whatever path you choose to go on, whichever talk you choose to attend, there'll be something to take away from it. Another great thing is I was very impressed by the breadth of how many different professionals, how many different companies, and how many different assistive technology users they had at this conference. Again, the assistive technology that they were presenting spanned from a company that helps modify vehicles to allow people in wheelchairs to drive independently, to companies that were presenting AAC devices, to companies that were presenting assistive technology to help people with low vision or vision impairment. Again, all across the board, a ton of different professionals to hear from and to learn from. So that was, I think, one of the big pros, was just the vast array of different people you could talk, learn, and network with. All right, another one of the great pros was, I think, the organization and the time frame of the conference. I love that, I think at least, there was a great mix or an organization between the time you'd be sitting down and listening to a presentation and the time you had to network with other people at the conference. I think it was well organized and well balanced. Another great pro was the food. I've been to one other conference before, not about assistive technology, and the food was horrible. I got like a little container, I can't remember exactly, but it was like a tinfoil sandwich and an apple, and that was it. The food at this conference was amazing. Now I know that's not one of like the critical points of why you'd go to this conference, but it is a huge plus. Another great thing I loved was how well labeled everything was. Wow, it was not easy to get lost. In fact, I never got lost, even though it was a very big venue. Everything was extraordinarily clearly labeled. Outside of each room, they had a TV that displayed what talk it was and what time it was at, which was super helpful. Another great thing that I loved was, at least in the ballroom, they were always projecting both the speaker and the screen share or the slideshow that they were presenting with. They were using these really high-tech cameras. I'll put a picture on screen right now, which me as a camera nerd thought was really cool. But yeah, those are some of the pros with the conference. All right, now for the nitpicky few things that I would have changed about my experience. Towards the end of the conference, they had about an hour and a half for networking or continuing to talk with the exhibitors. And a lot of people had left by that time. And so that last about hour of the conference, there really weren't many people there. So that's something that I would change, is if you want to make sure you talk with some people, don't wait to the end, to the designated networking time, because some people have already left at that point. Overall, this was a wonderful experience. I am so grateful and lucky that I was able to go, and I highly suggest that you go if you are able to next year. All right, if you want to see the videos that I will be posting with the interviews of the different exhibitors, I will be posting those videos in the next couple of days. So stay tuned for that. If you'd like to see the rest of my videos, well, you're on my channel, so just go and you can see my other reviews of specific assistive technology products and some candid conversations I have about my experiences as a high schooler with learning disabilities. You can also check out my website, which will be the first link in the description below, where you can see a lot of the assistive technology reviews I have done in a written format. I hope you have a great day. If you went to the conference, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Bye!